Okay, so good morning to one and all. We turn our attention to Sivan Reish Mem Hey today. We finished Reish Mem Dalet last week, and whereas before we were talking about businesses that were we had talked about businesses that were owned by a Jew and can they be open on Shabbos if there's a non-Jew who is working there? What sort of arrangement would allow it to be open? When is it problematic by the letter of the law? When is it problematic because it is an issue of Maris Ayin? And when is it mutter? So we went through all those three categories. Then we saw in Reish Mem Daled what happens when we ask a non-Jew is, let's say, doing work on our behalf, not at our business, but we're asking for a certain product to be worked on, and that's what we had discussed in Reish Mem Hey. So now we turn to now Reish Mem Hey. We turn to the topic of Yisrael ve'eno Yehudi shutafin eich yisnahagu b'Shabbos. Let's say you have a jointly owned business. A Jew and a non-Jew are in partnership. How do they act? Can they act? Can the business be open on Shabbos in such an arrangement? So let's begin studying that section of the Shulchan Aruch. So I'm going to share the screen with you. Here we go. We're over. Sorry, it's just loading. One more page, I see. Okay. Hopefully all that comes up. The Mishnah Berurah here does something that is not uncommon for him in Hilchot Shabbos, though in other parts of his commentary on Shulchan Aruch, in the parts that I've studied, I have not studied it from cover to cover. This is not as often done, but it's Mishnah Berurah Chafetz Chaim saw a need to introduce certain topics and give certain basic rules so that things make sense as we study them. So there is an introduction here to this sin. He writes here, so we're going to be right over here where my arrow is pointing. He says here, Da haheter gomor hu be'im ha'Yisrael yesh lo esek o malacha b'shutafus im ha'eno Yehudi sheyitnu mitchila kodem shelokchin b'shutfus avod ata b'Shabbos v'tikach kfi melachtecha hein rov hein o ma'at v'ani evod kenegdech Yom Echad Bechol. V'atol kfi melachti u'b'shas chaluka. Sorry, period. Let's stop there. So he says here that when is a partnership between a Jew and a non-Jew in terms of their owning a business together, when is it permissible, 100% permissible, that business is functioning on Shabbos? He says, when in a situation, be'im ha'Yisrael yesh lo esek o malacha b'shutfus im ha'eno Yehudi. If when is that situation? Sheyitnu mitchila, when there is a t'nai, there's a condition, a stipulation at the very beginning of the business partnership, at the beginning of this venture. Before, and this is key, in halacha, it's important that this be done before the purchase of the business. Right? So before the business venture together, you make this arrangement, and the arrangement is you, the non-Jew, the Jew would say to the non-Jew, or probably put it in the contract in some sort of arrangement, you work on Shabbos, and you take all the profits from what you work on Shabbos, and beautiful, whether it's a lot or that's a little, you get the business on Shabbos and all the profits that emerge from the business on Shabbos. Ve'ani, and I will work in correspondence to you getting all of Shabbos. I will get all of one particular weekday, whatever they agree upon. It could be Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, whatever they want. V'atol kfi malachti, and I will take according to what I work. Meaning, whatever I make on Tuesday, that's our day. I arrange it. Tuesday is my day. I get all of Tuesday's profits. Now, that would be a completely permissible arrangement, right? Then I have essentially, from the very beginning, removed myself from the business on Shabbos. I technically don't even have anything to do with the business on Shabbos. They make $1 million, they make $10. I see nothing of the profits.
Yeah.
And there's no Marasayan issue there?
Absolutely is a Marasayan issue.
Sure.
I don't see how he can. I don't see how the Chafetz Chaim can possibly say that.
Well, he's not saying this certainly on his own. This is really going to come from the Rishonim before him, and really before him, this is really more from the Gemara. So we'll explore this as we go along.
But Rav, first of all, different days give different incomes based on the nature of the business. Second of all, working on Shabbos sustains the brand, and the Jew has benefit from it, irrespective of the fact that you may not be able to immediately convert that to dollars. And as Hinda said, it's definitely a Marasayan issue if everybody knows that he's the owner of this Dunkin' Donuts or a part owner of it or something. So I don't see how that's valid.
Good. So we'll address, as we go along, we will address, I think actually the Mishnah Berurah will address the issue about why there is no Marasayan in such a case. So we'll get there. And it's an excellent point. It seems inconsistent with what we've been learning before, that Marasayan is a concern by Amir al-Anochi, more so than many other halachos that I've studied, by the way. The Marasayan concern really, really comes into play. Okay, let's keep going now. So V'shas Chalukah, at the time when, now, if their arrangement, now they've made this stipulation at the beginning that you take Shabbos, I take another day corresponding during the weekdays, and then they get to the Shas Chalukah. So at the end of the week, at the end of the month, they open the cash register, and it's time to literally split the profits now. So Yitol Ha'eno Yehudi, the non-Jew, takes Sachar Avur HaShabbos. He takes what was made on Shabbos. He looks at the receipts, and it turns out that he made X on Shabbos. So he takes X. Yisrael Yitol Echad Kinegdo, and Yom Echad. So in their arrangement, the Jew was he works on Sunday, which maybe worked out nicely because maybe that's a day that the non-Jew didn't want to work because it's his holy day. And the Jew takes the Sunday profits, Hein Rav, Hein Ma'at, whether it's a lot or it's a little. And that's how you could do, and that's what you do in such an arrangement. That's how you deal with it. And then presumably for the other days, you look in the cash register and you say, okay, it's $100 for the other 5 days, and you split it 50-50. Aval, im lo hisnu mitchila. Let's say there is no condition at the beginning. There is no stipulation, you work Shabbos and take the profits, I work Sunday and I take the profits. And uvashas chalukah, they get to the time of splitting the money. End of the week comes, time to look in the cash register. What did we make? Omer le'eno Yehudi, the Jew should tell the non-Jew, Tol ata keneged amalcha b'Shabbos, take according to your toil on Shabbos, v'ani b'chol. So there's such a situation where he says, look, you take what you worked hard for on Shabbos. We never made an arrangement, by the way. I just didn't show up. Still my business. In the first arrangement, I don't own the business on Shabbos. I get nothing of the business on Shabbos. I understand. As Simeon was pointing out a moment ago, that may help the brand, right? If business is good on Saturday, maybe that will one day help business be good on a Monday or a Sunday or a Tuesday. But in a situation where we don't make a stipulation at the beginning, and you say, oh, you take the Shabbos tough work that you did on Shabbos, and I'll take some of my hard work that I did on the weekdays, I guess, in a way where I take whatever, I guess one day. It's a kind of trying to make it a little bit fair. So zehu vadai osir. That is without a doubt prohibited. V'im lo hisnu mitchila. Uveshas chaluka chalku stam b'shaveh. And if there is no stipulation at the beginning as well, and they too at the end of the week, they say to each other, in the cash register, we have $200. We made $200 this week. So, Zehu Baya the Gemara velo ifshita. This question was raised in the Gemara, and the Talmud never gives an answer to the question. So, because right, you're just stam chalku stam b'shavah. You're not thinking, okay, here's the Shabbos part, here's the weekday part. That's a problem if you didn't stipulate, and we will talk more about why that's a problem. Here he's just giving basic rules so we know what we're playing with. But if there's no arrangement, I just whatever, we don't get into the whole Shabbos business. Obviously, I don't work on Shabbos, but at the end of the week, we split it 50-50, so you could see why maybe it's a problem, because now I'm actually taking profits of what happened on Shabbos. But you could also, on the other hand, whatever was done on Shabbos, the non-Jew who co-owns the business has a stake in this. And when he works the business, of course he's going to do it lenafshe. He's going to do it for himself. It's his profits too, even though he doesn't take 100% of the profits. So what do we do with this hibai de lo ifshita, this question that wasn't answered in the Talmud? How do we paskin with a question that's not answered in the Talmud? And unfortunately, many times this is exactly the case. We'll have a machlokas about how to paskin with the question, based on how you read the flow of the Gemara. Did you read it one way? Did you read it another way? So Pasek HaRambam, the Rambam, paskins lechumra, and he says this is prohibited. You can't have such a business arrangement with a non-Jew, where you don't pay attention to Shabbos. You just, at the end of the week, you split it, equally, whatever the profits are. V'harosh, and the Rosh, the great Ashkenazi Rishon, he paskin lekula. And not surprisingly, we see a difference here in halacha between the Sephardim and the Ashkenazim. HaMechaber sasam k'harambam. The Mechaber of the Shulchan Aruch followed the Rambam on this question about just, let it be, however. And the Ramah, Pasuk B'Hagaz, we'll see when we in the Siman, he's going to paskin in his gloss of Shulchan Aruch. Harosh, he's going to paskin like the great Ashkenazi Rishon, the Rosh. When, but only b'makom hefsed gadol. When we're talking about a great financial loss, if you weren't to allowed such a venture to go forward, meaning it could be that the business partnership was already forged, and they didn't know the halacha. And now he came to the Thursday morning class, and he found out this is actually not something I'm supposed to do. Now what do you do? So the Ramah says, "B'makom hefsed gadol." You're going to talking about large chunks of money that are going to be lost. You put a lot into the business, and now you're not allowed to take the profits. So then it's permissible, which again follows in the footsteps of the Rosh. V'im hisnu kodem sheba'u lehishtatev. If they come to be partners from before they make such an arrangement before the partnership begins, uvishas chaluka, and now they've said, you're going to work Shabbos, I have no stake in the business on Shabbos, and you take Sunday, I have no stake in the business on Sunday. And then when it comes time at the end of the week to split what's in the cash register, nisratzu lachlok b'shaveh, they appease each other and say, let's just split it 50-50, even though that's not necessarily how it should be broken up. It should be broken up You open up the cash register, you look at the receipts. Okay, on Shabbos, there was on Saturday, $100 profit. Boom, straight to the non-Jew. And on Sunday, it was 75, straight to the Jew. And now what do you do with the other, and then with the rest of it, you split it. But they decide, let's just take the 50-50, straight up. So Zehu Mutter, Afla Harambam, even the Rambam, who was machmir about just splitting it, would say when there was a prearrangement, that's okay because the Jew has no stake in the company, in the business on Shabbos. That's how it's set up.
Oh, man.
Okay, Ukamosha Kasuv. Here, Simeon, we're going to talk more about this one. The Siv Beis, and we'll talk more about this particular point in Siv Beis when we get there. Zehu, and the Mishnah Berurah concludes by saying, Zehu Ikore Hadinim Shibisaifim Harishonim. These are some of the basic principles that we are going to cover in the first few seifim in this siman. The yeser haprotim and all the details, the gam ta'amehen and all the reasons. Got that, Simeon? All the reasons. Yivoaru lekame. We are going to explain as we go. Okay.
Rav, the notion set forth by the Rush, is that under the rubric of Behefseid Gadol or in general?
So the Ramah only pulls out the Heter Behefseid Gadol, the Makom Hefseid Gadol. The Rush, I believe, did not say that. He read the Gemara and he paskined a certain way. But I mean, the Ramah has, as much as he, gives kavod and respect to the great Ashkenazi poskim, the great Ashkenazi Rishonim, he understood it was an Ibaya de lo Ifshita in the Gemara. It was a question that went unanswered. And there were great Rishonim as well, Rambam probably at the top of the list here, who felt uncomfortable giving a heter to where the Gemara did not give a clear heter. And so he only wanted to paskin like the Rush when there was a hefsed gadol, when there was great loss that was involved here. There was a lot of times you'll find in the Ramah and the Shulchan Aruch as well that when there's hefsed gadol, it changes the calculation. When it's a makom, shas adchak, a difficult situation, we'll often see that there are leniencies to let's say rely on opinions that maybe don't represent always the majority. But when you're up against the wall, you have to be able to rely on things to help people through real life situations. Okay, good. And we will talk about it as Mishnah Berurah promised, not just me, that we will talk about the reasons behind these rules that he has laid out.
So stay tuned.
Stay tuned. Here we go. Aleph, Sif Aleph in the Shulchan Aruch. Yisrael v'eino Yehudi sheyesh lahem soda o tanur or merchatz or rechayim shalmayim b'shutafus. Hopefully these cases sound familiar from previous simanim. Well, he's staying consistent here, which is based on the Gemara and Avodah Zarah. Daf Chaf Beis, if you want to look up the sugya. A Jew and a non-Jew who have a joint partnership in a field, or an oven, not just they don't stand like own an oven together. This is like a business. They have a communal baking center. Omerchatz, or they jointly own a bathhouse. Rechaim Shamayim, a water mill. They own it b'shutafus, or shehem shutfim b'chanus b'schora, or let's say they own a store together, merchandise. That's what they're selling. In hisnu mitchila, if they stipulate from the beginning, b'sha'o shabaul hishtatev, at the time when they come to partner with each other, sheyiyeh schar haShabbos le'eino Yehudi levado, that the profits alone on Shabbos go to the non-Jew alone. Imaat v'im harbe, whether it's a little or it's a ton. V'schar yom echad, and the schar of one day, again it could be Sunday, but it really could be any day. Keneged yom haShabbos is in correspondence to that. You say, look, you're getting a whole day where you really kind of own the business 100%, and there's a day which I own the business 100% in terms of the profit. Turn the page. So that type of arrangement is mutter. That is permissible. The im lo hisnu batchila. If there is no stipulation at the beginning of the partnership and the arrangement, when it comes time to split the profits, when there's no stipulation and it's time to split the profits at the end of the week, at the end of the month, whatever the agreement is when you open the cash register. No tel eino Yehudi schar hashabasos kulam v'hashar cholkin oso. He says, if you are in such an arrangement, then the non-Jew should take the profits of all the Shabbosos that were included in that time period, and the rest of the cash in the register, cholkim also, we split it, because however the business is split. If it's a 50-50 partnership, so it's 50-50. If it's 70-30, it's 70-30. Whatever the partnership is. V'im lo hayas schar hashabes yadua. So what happens? They don't keep such close track of every transaction that happened on Shabbos. They don't write it down. They don't have there are no receipts. Whatever it is, there's just $1,000 sitting in the cash register at the end of the month. So they don't know how much Shabbos. So yitol ha'eno Yehudi levado shvi'is haschar v'cholkim hashar. In a situation like that, the Rambam paskins that you should look in the cash register, automatically give 1/7 of the total in the cash register to the non-Jew, and then the remaining 6/7 should be split equally. Again, however their business is set up, whether it's 50-50 or some other type of arrangement.
That division, Rav, it would seem to me maybe at the end of the week, 1/7 is the equivalent of 1 day.
Right.
And that 1 day would be equal to Shabbos, and that belongs to the Eino Yehudi. And if they had a 50-50 partnership, then the balance of the money would be split equally between them. The Jew having forfeited because he didn't set the parameters at the initiation of the partnership, he would have to lose that.
Correct. Yes, correct. And this is the only way that it's permissible, because again, the Jew being engaged in the business and profiting from the business on Shabbos is something we are concerned about. And as we'll see in a moment here, the idea of the stipulation is really to remove the Jew, to never allow the Jew to have ever been shaykh to Shabbos with regard to this business. And that's why, and I know that you'll say, well, what about the Maris Ayin concern? But the point here is, and I'll also, and we'll explain more in a second, there'll also be some advertising of this fact. But the idea being here is that the Jew has nothing to do with Shabbos. Well, but what happens if I don't make the stipulation? I didn't work on Shabbos, though. So in order for me to profit from it is a problem. Now, well, we didn't calculate how much was made on Shabbos. So the assumption is made here is that approximately the same amount of business happens on Shabbos as the other days of the week. So if that's the case, so you take...
Is there also a requirement then that the expenses are split that way? Because if the expenses for the week are 50-50, then the Jew does have a stake in what's going on Shabbos.
The question is, though, here, if, let's say, they bought supplies and the supplies, meaning if they, here's what I would say, if they just bought supplies, I'm thinking of a restaurant right now, it's probably not a good example, but whatever. And you buy forks and knives and spoons. Let's say that's plasticware, so it's they're constantly buying more of this. If it's something that they bought and they earmark particular things for Shabbos, so you're right. Probably the Jew has no shaykhus to Shabbos, and so therefore it should be all responsibility of the non-Jew if let's say that there are purchases that are relevant for Shabbos. They're happening on Shabbos or something like that. But during the week, but if it's, let's say, I buy a month's worth of plastic forks, I don't think that you need to. It could be that the Jew the non-Jew makes such an arrangement. But if the Jew did buy such a thing, I don't think it would be problematic. If anything, he actually loses because he's paying for a greater share of the expenses than of the income that he's making. So there's definitely no profits that the Jew is making from the business on Shabbos. And if anything, he loses. So I don't think that even though you say maybe he's a little shaykh to what's going on Shabbos because they're using the plastic forks in the same, they're not making a differentiation between what happened on Shabbos versus on Wednesday. I would say that halacha seems to be not concerned with the Jews' involvement in that kind of way, because it's not really involvement. If anything, it's just they Stam bought something and they're using it on Shabbos. It's really his prerogative to get involved and say, hey, if we're going to have such an arrangement, you can't split the expenses only 50-50.
Yeah, I think that's what the Mechaber is talking about when he says hitnu. You'd make the arrangements lechatchila, and you'll cover all of these and ands and buts.
Correct. Yeah, but the key for halacha though is that it's more so on the profit side than on the expenses that happen at the beginning, I believe. Let's take a look at the Ramah here. The Ramah, and then we're laying all this out, and then probably next week we'll have to work our way back through the Mishnah Berurah, who really takes things in depth and again follows through on his promise to explain the underpinnings of everything here. The Ramah writes, as was previewed, V'yesh matir and haschar b'diavad. Some permit the schar, the profits b'diavad, afilu lo hisnu v'chalku stam, even if you didn't stipulate and you just stam divided it. Remember, the Mechaber only allowed such an arrangement. Remember, because the Rambam was machmir on that question in the Gemara, which wasn't answered. So the Mechaber's workaround, based on the Rambam, the rest of the Rambam solution was, if you want to just split it half, first you have to take a seventh and give it to the non-Jew. That way it's sort of in place of Shabbos approximately, and then split it. The Ramah said, following the Rosh's opinion, no, it's fine. It's mutter b'di'eved. After the fact, it's not great that this was the arrangement, but okay. And you just split the 7-day or the monthly profits 50-50, not including the whole 1/7 business. Venerally, the Ramah writes, psak-wise. Remember, this is to your question, Simeon. The Rosh paskin that way. The Ramah, invokes the psak. The behefsed gadol yesh lismoch alayhu. When there's a great loss, so then you can rely on the Rosh's opinion in terms of how to paskin in that question, the Gemara that wasn't answered. V'yesh omrim shekol zeh lo ma'iri ela b'shutfus. Someone unmuted me. V'yesh omrim shekol zeh lo ma'iri ela b'shutfus shekol echad osek b'yomo. That is there are those that say that all of this is only relevant in a partnership where each person is takes their day. Osek biyomo. Right? So I don't come in on the days that you work. You work on Tuesdays and Wednesdays and Thursdays. I don't touch those days. That's your day. And I'm a partner in the business and that I run it on the other days, let's say, right? Forget the Shabbos question for a second here. That's the kind of arrangement we're talking about here. That's when we have this shas chalukah, splitting it to 7th, and we have to try to stipulate from the beginning, etc., etc. Aval kishishnehem oskim biyachad. If they both work the business together, they both show up every day together. Kol yemei achol. Shabbos on the weekdays, and then on Shabbos, Osei Ka'eno Yehudi Levado, and on Shabbos, the non-Jew works the business by himself. So, Mutter Lachlok Imo Kol Haschar. Then you could just not think twice and split the profits. Why? Because again, it's how you set up the business. How do you set up the business? Oh, I take the business 3 days a week, you take it 4 days a week. We share because, it's our brand together, but fundamentally we run the business on different days. But if, let's say, we jointly run the business and how it functions on a day-to-day basis, then when it comes time to splitting the profits, you can just split the whole thing. Because when the non-Jew works on Saturday, he didn't work it on my behalf. He worked it on his behalf. It's not like we take days and then, when you work on Saturday, you're always working on my behalf because that's not my day, right? Or Saturday, Sunday, Monday, let's say. You work on my behalf on those days. Oh, but what happens? There's somebody working on my behalf, right? And that allows me to take the money from the other days that I work. I think it's a that type of arrangement. And the Jew doesn't, in this type of arrangement, doesn't benefit from the work that's done on Shabbos, because it doesn't fall on me to do the business, to do the malacha on Shabbos, alone, and therefore I'm asking you to do the business on Shabbos. We both do it. I don't show up on Saturdays, but you have plenty of incentive to continue the business on Shabbos as well. It's a huge heter, by the way, what we're reading right now. But reality is, there are profits that are made on Shabbos. So when we split it, we should be very careful not to do it where we split it once a week and here's the made on Saturday, and let's split that in half. And here's what we made on Friday and split that, or split it day by day. If at the end of every day you split the profits, then what happens is on Shabbos, you will have done business on Shabbos. You will have made profits from this arrangement directly on Shabbos. It has to be done to Havlah in a larger sum with other days of the week or the month, or however you split it, bi-monthly, whatever it is. That's the opinion of the Ran, and that's a big heter when it comes to business partnerships on Shabbos. We will explore all of this and try to get to the bottom of the various opinions that have been laid out here next week. Until then, though, I wish you a wonderful week, and I look forward to our learning next Thursday. Take care, everybody.